So this is the breakfast protein challenge. And this is, if you're doing the animal base, like it fits perfectly with it. And if you're not doing the animal base, it's still a great challenge. And I just figured I would put this out there to see if anyone else wanted to join so that we can all share some feedback and see if this is something that we may incorporate into our guidelines going forward. Because in the past, a lot of us start out when we come into the SHT, it's a very balanced approach. I think that's the way most of us have to approach this anyway. I can't come out and explain exactly what I'm doing to someone who's brand new because they get scared, at everything that I eat. But, from balance, we move towards, I think most of us have experimented with a lot of fasting protocols. We've done the 3 to 5 days and then kind of gravitated. I know I went through a phase of probably 3 years of just one meal a day. And I remember everyone was saying that I was leaning out, and I was like, okay, that's fine, I guess. But at some point it was almost too much because I was losing some strength. And it was about a few years ago that I really got into this kind of protein centric way of looking at things and started following and reading from some of the thought leaders in this area. And then things changed in a good direction again, which they've always been good. It just got better and better and better, So that's kind of where I'm at now, is just trying to figure out what is the perfect balance of eating to non-eating so that we can get all the results that we want, so that we can maintain muscle mass, put on muscle mass. As we know, as we age, that's the thing that we should be, one of the things we should be most concerned about is maintaining and or gaining muscle mass, which translates into bone strength and functionality and just living an amazing life, right? So it's like, what is the balance to do that? And then also to get the benefits of the metabolic flexibility and fat burning that comes from space, because we have to have both. So that's what we're trying to do, is just find this balance of eating and non-eating. And I think from what I intuit and just the way that I feel about things, I think if I had to prioritize those two things, I think the nutrition piece is more important. So even if you ended up doing 3 meals a day or something like that, and it's really good food and it's kind of focused on protein, and I feel like getting what you need from a nutritional standpoint is more important than fasting to death, but I think there is a perfect balance, and that's what we're trying to find here. So this is the challenge. The challenge is to consume 35 to 50 grams or more of protein for breakfast, which, by the way, most of us skip breakfast. That's how we do our 2 meals a day. Most of us skip breakfast, including myself. I've been doing this for a really long time. And eating breakfast has been really, really bizarre, but it's been great too. So we're consuming 35 to 50 grams of protein for breakfast, fasting during the middle of the day, and then consuming another 35 to 50 grams of protein for dinner. All right, that's the challenge. And this is how we're going to do it. I posted these images in Superhumans United, and if you can't access them or have a hard time finding them, just let me know. I can get them to you. I think what's ideal is 35 grams of protein at a meal. In the literature from these experts, you just hear all these numbers everywhere from 20 on, 20 to 35. But I think 35 is like a sweet spot of giving you a really good stimulus, and it's also something that's doable. If I start to get it up to this, if I start to recommend 50 grams of protein, that's a half a pound of meat in a meal. Like, a lot of people are going to have a hard time eating that, but 35 grams is doable. You're definitely crossing the thresholds that we've talked about in our optimizing protein talk about, having this certain amount of leucine and stimulating muscle protein synthesis. So I'd say 30 grams is a minimum, 35 is a little bit more optimal. So anyway, we've got some numbers here that you can use to try to figure out, when you have your meals, how much of these different animal foods that you need to have at the meals. Okay. In general, I'd say probably shooting for 1/3 of a pound plus when it comes to meat, or if you're using a scale to measure things, I do ounces, because it doesn't do like quarter pounds. It does, a quarter pound is 4 ounces, right? So if you're looking at ounces and we look at the numbers across here, I think, again, just to keep things simple, I'm either looking for 1/3 of a pound of meat or more, or 6 ounces or more. And in most cases, you're going to cover that and then some. And that makes it really easy. And 6 ounces, by the way, super doable. I did 6 ounces of ground beef this morning with a few eggs, and super, super doable. All right. Now, as we're doing this, I also highly recommend using chronometer and a scale, measuring your food or measuring your protein so that you know how much protein you're actually getting. And then Chronometer is extremely useful. We can tab over to Chronometer. I can show you some things in there. Kind of confusing to try to figure out like raw versus cooked, but I think I did get that figured out. But that's useful to kind of see, where you're at in a day as far as total protein intake, or how much of a certain food that you need to consume that maybe wasn't listed up there. Now, I want to finish with just a little bit of the why. And this is, I had to copy and paste out of the post that I'm posting in the group today, just for time efficiency's sake. So if we're trying to optimize muscle growth and all the benefits that come from it, and then also maximize the benefits of fasting, this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to find the perfect ebb and flow and balance, right? So there's a couple of things that we know stimulate muscle protein synthesis, and one of them is resistance training. And depending on how old you are and how long you've been training, that stimulus is going to last for different times for different people. And it seems like people that are just starting out and they're young and they're lifting weights, like they get this muscle building effect from a resistance training session for days. And then if you're someone that's more veteran and you've been doing this a while, to get that same effect, it's lasting maybe 24 hours, which is why the recommendation is usually to train every body part a couple of times a week, okay? Especially as mature adults. Mature physiologically. I'm not talking about mentally and emotionally, because I know a lot of us are very immature, including myself. So the other thing that stimulates muscle protein synthesis is protein consumption, right? So we've got those two things, right? And then if you haven't watched the talk on optimizing protein, I thought it was a really, really great talk. I'm really proud of it. I put a lot of work into it. So we've got these two things. We're looking for a gram of protein per pound of ideal body weight in a day, right? It's like one threshold that we're trying to reach. At a minimum, I would say starting out at 100 grams of protein per day is something really good to shoot for most people. Ideal body weight, you're getting up to 150 plus. Like it is challenging initially, but I think mainly because we're just not used to thinking this way and eating this way. But ideally we're hitting ideal body weight in grams of protein. And then for muscle protein synthesis, this is a separate threshold. We're looking for the 30 grams plus. I think 35 is going to be better per meal. Okay, so 100 grams plus up to your ideal body weight in grams total protein a day, regardless of how you put that together, how many meals you have, how much protein is at each meal. That's very important for the turnover, for what's happening with the body and to facilitate all the different functions that proteins play inside the body. But then the second focus is having these boluses, because that's what stimulates muscle protein synthesis. If I have a Chomps meat stick in the middle of the day and it's 10 grams of protein or 8 grams of protein, that counts towards my total daily protein intake, but that does not stimulate the muscle protein synthesis that we're looking for. And I'm not saying don't snack. I'm just saying it adds to the total deal, but it doesn't give this effect that we're looking for. Now, after you consume this bolus of the necessary amount of protein to stimulate muscle protein synthesis, Don Lehman and them, I don't know, they did their own studies, okay? So there's some research previously that said it only lasted for a few hours. I think I actually covered some slides in the Optimizing Protein talk where I showed some graphs in time. So what Don's saying is that they measured it and they had peaked levels at 5 and 6 hours after eating. So his argument was, if we were to prioritize when to have the meals to get this stimulus, the most important one would be morning, because we've been fasting all night and we've started to get into this muscle turnover situation where we're kind of starting to pull amino acids from our muscles. So morning would be extremely important. And because you have this muscle protein stimulating effect for 5, 6, 7, maybe even 8 hours, then the midday meal is not anywhere near as important. The evening meal would be important as well, because again, we're looking at fasting throughout the night. And so if we can have this muscle stimulating effect, while we sleep, that would be a great thing too. Okay. So that's the idea behind when. Okay. So putting this together, my theory, this experiment that I'm wanting us all to do together so that we can get some feedback on it, is to have that big bolus in the morning. And that way you're having the stimulating effect for the majority of the day. Fast in the middle of the day, because most of us like doing the 2 meals a day, and I think it is helpful to have some natural space. And then we have another meal at the end of the day that has another really, really good bolus of protein. So we're getting the benefits of maximizing muscle growth and maintenance, while at the same time we have some of the benefits of fasting. I saw your hand go up, Vanessa. I'll check that in just a second. So again, if we're looking at priorities, right? So priorities meaning the number one priority is getting enough protein in a day, period, right? So even if that's spaced out and you're not hitting your 30 grams per meal. And then the second priority would be getting that bolus of 35 grams of protein at a sitting. So, but we can do both of them. Okay. So that means now if we step back at that and look, okay, what are my daily protein requirements? Ideally, again, a minimum of 100 up to your ideal body weight. If I'm only doing 2 meals in a day, that's telling me I'm probably going to have to eat at least 50 grams of protein at a meal. But I mean, we gotta figure out what we can do here. Okay. So it's basically, we're going to have 2 really big protein based meals, but I'm telling you right now, I've been doing this and it was really weird. Like I don't have an appetite in the morning. I'm just so used to doing things the way that I've been doing. Now my body, actually, I'm developing an appetite in the morning, and I guess it's because my body's just getting used to these timings. And I feel amazing. Like I'm always pretty strong. I always feel like I'm making decent progress in the gym, especially for my age. And now I feel like I'm getting even more of my mojo back. I'm feeling like I'm looking and performing better, and my energy level in the middle of the day, I'm telling you right now, after having that big protein breakfast, it's insane. Like I always feel really good. I don't think it can get any better, and now it's better. So we're just looking for some subjective and objective changes and some feedback, and this may, benefit some people. It may backfire some other people. Who knows? I'd like to have some input so that I can try to incorporate something into our guidelines moving forward. Okay.
So just kind of had questions. So I think you answered it. So on the bolus, which is kind of that stimulant. So we're shooting for doing it in the morning to kind of test this out, but it could also be done in the afternoon, if I'm understanding correctly.
Well, I guess it depends on what your goals are. Yeah. So if you're still looking to do 2 meals a day, the experiment here is morning and evening versus most of us do lunch and dinner, right? So we're looking to get that stimulating effect in the morning, and that's going to last for a long time. I'd say long enough to take us to dinner, and then we have dinner. So is that what you're asking, or?
Yeah, I guess where this bolus, this stimulus, like, does it have the same effect if you do it in the morning as if you do it in the evening? Or are we testing out the theory that if we do it in the morning, it's going to be a little bit better?
We're testing out the theory that in the morning one is probably the most important one for all of us, because most of us eat dinner anyway, So it's both. We're doing the morning and the evening because of the time, the duration of stimulating effect that it has after that bolus, which is 6-7 hours. So we're looking to use breakfast to cover the space during the day and still build muscle while we're fasting. And then we're looking for dinner to cover the space during the night. So we're building muscle while we're sleeping, fasting.
Okay, that tracks.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the other question I had too was going 1 gram per pound of ideal body weight. And I might totally be overthinking this, but I'm trying to bring down my body fat percentage right now. So is it like 1 gram of protein per like ideal like muscle mass, or include fat in there, or am I just really
total body weight, ideal body weight? So for you, like what's your dream weight that you think is achievable?
Basically between 125 and 130 is where I've felt the best. And when we were doing this stuff like back in the day, and I was like rocking it. So we can call it 127.
Yeah. So I'd say somewhere around I'd say anywhere from 100 grams up to 125 grams of protein total in a day. So it's not just lean muscle mass, it's total body weight. Again, so are you doing 2 meals a day most days, and then like you're sprinkling in some 1 meal days here and there?
I've just been doing when I'm hungry, which is 1 meal a day, and I get hungry probably between like 3 and 5 every day.
Okay.
So I would be adding a meal.
So, but yeah, you're adding a meal. And this is where I want some feedback, because it's like we're trying to get some balance between eating and fasting. And I know that I felt really good doing 1 meal a day for a long time, and I leaned out a lot. But now that I've added another meal, and now that I'm focusing on protein, my body is changing in a really good way. I feel like, I still have my leanness and feel really strong. So then I think the trick is for me right now, especially, no problem first meal. Actually, no problem both meals. It's my little, dessert that I want to have on top of it, so I got to be really conscious about my carbs. And if I had to throw in, like, all the other rules of the SHT apply, right? Like, you can eat as many vegetables as you want after you get your protein requirements and stuff, but definitely measuring out that half a cup of carbs per meal versus going over that, because so some of us are making ourselves eat a little bit more protein than we used to, or meat than we used to, or animal foods. And so I think we just need to be aware of that, I guess, potential for excess or extra calories or energy compared to what we're doing before. So on the days that I measure it out and I get that consistent, and I don't, do anything overboard or have a few drinks or something like that, like, I feel lean and mean, and I feel super, super strong. So that's kind of what we're looking for. We're looking for, like, what does this do? How do we feel? What's the balance? What's the perfect amounts and stuff like that?
So I really struggle with eating early in the morning. I always have.
Like,
is it like you wake up and you eat, or is it like, okay, you go work out, then come back and eat type deal?
Okay, great question. So I think as soon as is comfortable. Okay, so I don't think we have to be stressed out about, like, oh, as soon as I wake up, I have to eat. Like, that's definitely not going to happen with me. Now, if working out is going to stimulate things a little bit, right? If you eat a big protein meal after you work out, especially if the perfect scenario, I think, is to have a resistance training session in the morning that stimulates muscle protein synthesis. And then when you have a protein meal after that, it enhances muscle protein synthesis. So I think that's what's ideal. Okay, now we definitely still want to abide by what we've learned about fitness, and you want to go into a workout fasted so that your body prioritizes how to make its own energy, and so it's metabolically flexible. And then I would just recommend that as soon as it's convenient. So what I do is I'll go in, I'll do my workout in the morning. I usually, my post-workout shake is like a cup of bone stock, and then I have like some collagen and an egg yolk in it. So I come out and I drink that, and I don't know that that's helpful or not helpful or anything, but it just tastes really good and I love it. It's a way for me to get habit stack and get my bone stock in every day. But and then I'll take the dogs for a walk, and then I'll come in and eat my first meal. And that's usually for me maybe around 8 o'clock or something like that. Whereas I'm getting up around, here I'm getting up around 5:30 or something like that. So first meal in the morning as is convenient to you, without you just forcing yourself to roll out of bed and eat something. But this, if I could just say, the scale, like measuring out, or doing your 5 eggs or whatever it is, right? Measuring it out and just knowing this is what I have to consume. Like, that's been so helpful for me. It's like, I don't know why it's liberating. It's like, I call it like the abbreviated SHT macros. Like, we're not trying to hit a total caloric intake. We're not stressed out about the other things. All we care about is this protein amount at this sitting. And then if I'm doing carbs, I want to make sure that I measure my carbs out to a max of a half a cup per sitting. That simplifies things. It makes it so freaking easy. And then you just fill in the rest with vegetables and stuff, As you embark on this experiment, feel free to post your experience in the breakfast protein challenge post that I'm going to post today, right after this is over. I'm going to post the video and stuff. So I would love your feedback, like whatever it is, like daily, after a week, something like that. You can also feel free to post just a dedicated post update in the group.